All right, good morning, everybody. Today's day 56 for the online Rankin Technical College AWD1000 Web Development Technologies class. All right, today is Wednesday, and today and tomorrow I'm going to create two to four, probably three, complete JavaScript applications. And as it says there, we will be converting each one of these JavaScript applications to a React application, not next week, but the week after Thanksgiving. And tomorrow we'll also review the requirements for your ePortfolio. So I've got to make sure I send those out by tomorrow. That gives you more than a month to be working on those. All right, Friday, as it says, will be our typical lab day. So you can work on your final homework and anything else you've got to do. All right, there are still some people this weekend, my promise to you, this weekend, the last JavaScript test will be graded. In fact, what I will do is probably on Sunday afternoon, I'm just going to grade everything that's in everybody's GitHub repo at that time. So I should be able to catch up. Now, Code Camp homework is due this Sunday, and that is that ES6 lesson that's after the basic lesson we went over. It's got 29 lessons in it. If you can send me proof that you've completed 100% of it, basically that's 75 points. All right. Your written tests for chapters 12 through 19 are also due by midnight on Sunday. As it says, your HTML, CSS, JavaScript final is due by midnight on Monday, the 27th. So Monday after we come back. And finally, again, next week, I will be on quasi vacation and I'll have limited availability. All right. I'm going to be, if I didn't say this to you before, I'm going to be helping to watch a 3-month-old who's my grandson. And whenever I can get around to it, I will check online. I do promise you that if you get a hold of me with any questions, I will email you back within 24 hours, but I'll try to do it as quickly as I possibly can. All right, so with that said, let's get going. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a simple JavaScript calculator. Now, everything that I'm going to do right now, I'm going to end up saving. So if you'd rather just watch, not code along at all, that's totally fine. But I do want to show you this. This is not mine, but this is something, you know, when people kind of go nuts with this stuff, I found this 3-part series on how to create a calculator. It's really, really, really well done. All right. And there's probably close to 50 pages of documentation because there's 3 Word articles in it. All right. And then he's actually got the whole calculator out here. There it is. All right. And it's pretty simple, as you can see in its setup. And the one that I'm going to do today isn't going to be that different from that, but it also totally works. All right. Now, I don't have the working copy up here, but I'm going to send you all of that stuff too. So if you'd like to take a look, you'd be able to do so. All right. But what I'm going to do today, like I said, I'm going to do 2 projects. I'm going to start with this simple calculator. And just so you see, I do have the CSS for it because I didn't want to bore you with me doing CSS. Not a boatload of CSS in here, about 50 or 60 lines, but we'll go over it in just a moment. All right. And with that said, I do not have a JavaScript file in here. I do not have an HTML file in here. In fact, just to show you that literally it's possible to build an app that actually implements the equivalent of JavaScript functionality without using JavaScript, I'm going to build this calculator solely in HTML. All right. And I'm just going to take my time doing it. So I'm going to come in here and let's start by opening this up in code. All right. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to create a new file, and that'll be, of course, our index.html file. All right. And we're going to start it up the way we always do with an exclamation point and tab. So we now have our template created. All right, I'm just going to call this simple JS calculator. All right, now you may or may not think it's simple as we go through it, but compared to what we could do, it is relatively simple. All right, we won't have any JavaScript in here, but I do want to link up to our CSS file. So that is styles.css. And when you take a look at that, and let's just take a quick look because I don't want to waste our time on this stuff, but this is what's in here. First is the equivalent of a very simple reset. We're turning off any padding, we're turning off any margins. I'm setting the font family just to Arial, could have been anything. And this box sizing, if you remember what that does, is it says that basically when you're configuring the size of an element, do not put into that configuration the padding, margin, etc. It's just the size of the element. All right. I'm going to be creating a container. That container will have 100% of the width and that 100 VH, meaning basically it should take up the whole page. I just grabbed a background color. I could have used something other than I could have used something other than the actual verbiage. All right, but I just used antique white. Notice we've got a display flex and a line item center and a justify content center. So ideally, this container in which we are about to create this calculator, all right, will be centered on the screen. Okay, the calculator itself is going to have a background that's going to be pretty much just about black, a little bit of padding all the way around, and a little bit of border radius. All right, and on there, as it says, have something that's going to be an input. Well, that input that you see on there, okay, basically, as you can see, we've set it up. I don't want to sit and read these things to you, all right? But for lack of better words, all right, these are pretty much going to be our buttons. So you can see what they look like in here. Again, I'm not going to read this stuff in here to you, all right? Then we've got our form display, and what that is, typically, like, again, when you use a calculator, and you've all seen this before, but if I bring up a calculator, all right, that's what this form display is going to be in here. Now, it's not going to be as intricate as this calculator right here. All right, in other words, it's not going to have percentage. It will have a clear, it will have a delete, all right, but it's not going to have things like square roots, etc. All right, but it'll have the basic mathematical operations in it. All right. So again, this will be that display. This will be the answer itself, and I probably could have done that up there. In fact, I guess I did. All right, but this will be for the equal sign because I wanted that thing to be a little wider. All right, and this didn't even work. I was screwing around with that for my operator, so we don't even really need this. All right, so let's just start building. All right, and as I do this, I'll do a little bit, and then when we get done, we'll take a look and see what it looks like. All right, so I'll do a little bit more and we'll take a look and see what it looks like, etc. And again, the idea behind this calculator, it's not very difficult. It has things in there that are considered poor programming practice. And we're going to talk about what those are after I get done writing this. And we're going to talk about something in JavaScript that many people like and many people dislike. And that's called eval, and that's an evaluation function. We'll get to that in just a bit. All right. So again, this is going to be in a class that's called container. All right, and inside of the container, we're going to have another class that's called calculator. All right, and everything, literally everything that's in here is going to be inside of this. All right, everything that we do is going to be inside of here. So let's start with our actual display. And again, this is going to be the answer area. So I can put in here exactly what it is, okay? All right. Now we could take a look at it now. There's not real much to it other than all we have put in here right now basically is just the answer. So it's going to be a text box. That's all that's in here right now. All right. But let's start putting stuff in so you can actually see it in action, so to speak. All right. Everything that I put in here, basically, I set up just inside of divs. So AC is for all clear. All right. And for now, there's one more line. I'm not going to put that in yet. All right. And if you say, well, geez, why? I'll show you in just a minute. Okay. All right. So let me grab this right here. I'm going to copy it down. So I've literally got that in there 4 times. All right. So this will be the all clear. This is going to be the delete. It's going to just delete one character. All right. Then I'm also going to have in here, what else was in here? All clear, delete. There was a slash right here. And I'm missing something. I'm trying to figure out right now what it is. Oh, it's my period. So the period, the decimal point, whatever you want to call it, and this. So that's what's in there so far, but just so you can see what it looks like. All right. Doesn't look like much right now. All right. But you can see there is some formatting in it. So this will be my all clear. This will be my delete. This will be for putting in a decimal place. And this will be for division. All right. Okay. Let's just continue on then. And basically what this was there'll be a bunch of, like I said, a bunch of these divs. Let me grab this one. And again, I'm going to put it in 4 times. So this will be a 7. This will be an 8. This will be a 9. And this will be my multiplication or asterisk. All right. Then I'm going to put it in 4 more times. And these will be my 4, 5, 6. All right. And the minus sign. All right. And I'm going to put it in 4 more times. All right. And those will be my 1, 2, 3, and the plus sign. Okay. And then finally, I'll have one last row. All right. And this one last row is only going to have 2 things in it. Right. I wanted to check one thing out here. styles. I just want to make sure I'm giving it the right name up on top. Yeah, I am. Good. Okay. All right. So for this last one, this is going to be 0. All right. And we're also going to have an equal sign in here. So right now, if this is any indication, it'll probably look pretty putrid. Right? Not sure why it's looking like that. Going off of my master, and my master looks real good, and this doesn't. So I'm going to go back and take a look at it, but you can see right now, at least, you can see what it looks like. All the keys are in there. All right, but I can tell you right now that either I'm missing something in my CSS, and I'm going to go back and check this against my master, so to speak, and just to double check and make sure that everything is in there. All right. As far as I can tell, everything looks good in here. Let me check one more thing out just to double check. All right. Okay. And let's go back to this and check this from the top as well. Okay. Oh, well, here's part of it. Okay. This whole thing was supposed to be put inside of a form, and I did not do that. So let me put this in a form and I'll move everything over. All right. Thought it looked pretty funky. All right. Let's see what that did as far as the way this looks. All right. Well, it looks better. It isn't right, but it looks better than it did. All right. You can see the stuff that's in here. All right. Again, not sure why it's looking the way it is, but it is. All right. So let's keep going on then. All right. All right. What I'm going to want to do then in here is I'm going to want something different to happen each and every single time I come in here and click one of these buttons. For instance, all right, when I come in here and click this AC button, which is all clear, I want my screen to clear. And that should make sense. Now, there's different ways that I can do this. All right. But what I told you that I'm going to attempt to do in this example is to basically put the operations that I want to have happen right in here. And if you say, I don't know what you mean, well, here's an example. Now that looks a little funky. That'll fix it. Try to fix it. There we go. Okay, so what does this say right here? All right, this says when I click this button right here, that my display, all right, dot value, so my display dot value should be nothing. That's exactly what I want to have happen here. That should come in and that should clear everything out. Now, for the life of me right now, looking at this, I have no idea why it looks like this, but it does. Work on that. I already see one problem, and hopefully we can fix everything that's in there. But when you look right here, all right, let's see, for example, if I type in an 8, all right, I haven't programmed that yet, but hopefully in just a minute, when I program these, all right, you're going to see the numbers in there. Why it looks like that, hopefully we'll be able to figure this out. And as always, if for some reason I can't figure it out, I'll go back to the original and I'll show you the original. All right, so this is DE right here, which means I just want to delete a single character. Now, again, as I mentioned before, there are multiple different ways of doing this. All right. But what I wanted to do was to come in and show you one of the functions that we had looked at previously. We may not have spent much time on it, but we have looked at it. So I'm going to say here again, on click equal, just like we did before. All right. And I'm going to say display dot value equal, and I'm going to put in here display dot value again, display dot value dot toString dot slice 0 0 -1. All right. And what the heck does that do? All right, let's go back and look at it. In fact, let's take this. I should be able to put this over multiple lines. Okay. And what is this doing? What I'm saying is whatever we put into our particular text box, so whatever's in there. So let's say I put in the number 456, just a random number I pulled out of the air. All right. Well, it's saying to display it again, but all right, go from the beginning and go all the way, but do not include the last character. So if I click that button and it had said 456, all right, then what I want to have happen is I want the 6 to disappear. All right. Okay, so there's that. So we've done the AC and the DE. So let's just continue on here and let's do the period. Now, what you're going to find with a lot of these things that we do in here, all right, the pattern is going to be very similar as far as what we do. All right, I'm just telling you that right now. All right, so let's look at that one. Okay, and literally what that one means. Okay, I'm not sure. Let's see. We'll figure out why we're getting that error there. Well, it's because of this dot value plus equals. There we go. Okay, what that one is saying is every time we click the period, all right, we're going to get another period. Now, this is one of the places. There's about 3 or 4 places in here where this calculator breaks down. I wanted to show you something fairly simplistic in here. And then I wanted you to be able yourselves to go in and take a look at the other one that I just showed you at the beginning of class. That one is pretty much bulletproofed. This one's not. There are problems with this program. All right. I didn't write it. I took it off the internet because I liked it and it allowed me to demonstrate a few things to you as well. All right. So I want to do a similar thing right here. So I'm going to grab this code and grab everything that's in here. Okay, I'm going to copy that to the clipboard, and I'm going to come down here and hit enter and paste that in. But now, no, every time I do this, no, it's not a period that I want to add. It's a slash. All right. Okay. Now there's my error because I had a slash in there for the 7. All right. Now I'm going to be doing the same thing for each one of these now. And what I mean is I'm going to come in here just like we did right here, but I'm going to be adding a 7 or an 8 or a 9 or a 1 or a 2 or a 3, etc. All right. So again, I'm going to come in here and this will be a 7. Now we should be able to check now and see whether or not that works. Again, why it looks like this, I wish I knew. So there's a 7. And you'll notice that every time I click, I'm getting another 7. The reason that that's important is if I put a plus equal sign in there. If I'd only put a plus sign in there, I'd only get a single 7, no matter how many times I clicked it. Well, let's see, if we divide that by 77, all right, you can see that stuff is working. And if I hit DE, well, that doesn't appear to be working. And the AC is working. All right. Like I said, we're going to go through the whole thing. I'll get it to work. And if for some reason it doesn't, I'll go back to one that does work and I'll show you that one. All right. So what do we have in here? Well, you can see since I saved it, that prettier is on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and put all these in. So that'll be 8. And then this next one here will be 9. So now the 7, the 8, and the 9 all work. All right, if I continue on, all right, and I come in here and do this, now the multiplication should work. All right, and come in here, and here's my 4, 5, and 6. Seven, 8, 9, 4, 5. Here will be 6. Here's our subtract. And 1, 2, 3. And then 0. Now I'm not done, but I do want to mention here, the equal sign, for lack of better words, is kind of a different animal in here. And what do I mean? Well, when you hit the equal sign, you want an operation to take place. Should make sense to everybody. All right. So what I want to do is I want to change this right here. I don't even need this. All right, but I want to change this, and I want it to say the following. Whoops. So that's everything we've been seeing so far. Nothing surprising there. But what changes is in the on click here. All right, just like that. And then in this. All right, let's see what's funky here. Button equal, values equal, on click equals display dot value. All right. Now what that does is, as I showed you before, if we have 777 there, and then we hit the divide symbol and we put 9, this is supposed to do that calculation. 777 divided by 9. All right. Now, I can already tell you I'm missing something unbelievably fundamental here, and that's why when you look at it, it should work now, but it's going to be ugly. All right. Shouldn't look like this. But let's come in here just so you see it. I'm going to say 891. And we'll say 891, I don't know, divided by 78. Click equal, and there's our answer. Now, let's look at it. Let's look at the working version that I have, because I don't know, like I said, what's going on with this. But I'm going to bring this one up anyway. So this is the simple calculator. That's the way it's supposed to look. As you can see, it looks a little bit nicer than the other one. So again, if I say 891 divided by 7, there's my answer. All right, now, a few things about this program. First of all, again, you'll notice I've got the answer here. No problem. But since I'm using eval, I'm not putting any checks on this. So you see right now I've got 127 point and a bunch of stuff. I can remove those. Let's just get it down so it's kind of manageable. So you see that. The problem is if I hit the decimal place again, it takes it. If I put a divide in here now, and then a multiply, and then I hit equal, it takes it. It doesn't do anything because it doesn't know how to handle that, but it takes it. So these are all the regular calculator types of calculator functionality. All right. But what would we have to check? Well, when you think about it, when a person comes in here to basically do an operation on a calculator, what can they do? All right, they can enter a number. All right, so you've got there 0 through 9, so they can enter any of those numbers. All right, they can enter a decimal place or a decimal point if you're working with a decimal number. All right, technically, each one of these operations that's right here should not be allowed until there's a number in there. But the way we're doing this right now, that's not the case. All right. And next week, when we go, or not next week, the following week, when we go over this in React, we're going to build a better version of this that's going to handle a lot of that stuff. All right. But I wanted to show you this. Why? Because really, in about 80 lines or so of code, we created a fully functioning calculator. Now, that said, it's not a perfect, fully functioning calculator, but it is a fully functioning calculator. So I went out here and I looked, and I went to W3 schools, and I went out to JavaScript eval right here. I'm not going to read a bit of this to you, but they mention in here, you can do this. So notice they've created two numbers. Whoops, well, that's good. I don't have McAfee, so all right. So when I go back here, of course, I just removed it. So when you go up here, what does this do? Okay. Well, look, that is a string. X times Y is a string. How do you know that? It's in double quotes. But when you run eval on it, it says, hey, this is some kind of a mathematical operation. Do the operation. And you'll see if we do that, it does give you 200. So if I change this and make it 25 times 25, it should come up and say that it's 625. All right. And it does. So you can see that that works. All right. Now, what's the next thing it says here? Never use eval. Use code or a function instead. All right. So eval, they mention here what it is, why it's used. All right. And it's funny because notice it's in pink here, but do not use eval. All right. Executing it is a big security risk. What does that mean? We don't really even talk much about security in this class, but if you use eval, all right, if you use eval in your program, okay, and for example, like I've in here, mine's not really a security risk just because of the fact we've got buttons and each button does a specific thing, all right? But if you've got a form, a JavaScript form, and you're using eval to do different things on that form, people can put things into text boxes, password boxes, etc. And you can actually put executable JavaScript code inside of there. And then it'll run when the program runs. All right. And that's what they're talking about right here. Said it's a big security risk. Malicious code can run without your permission. All right. And they can lead to possible different kinds of attacks. There are all sorts of different kinds of attacks that can happen. All right. But one of them is if somebody, let's assume, for example, that you're logging in to some application and you want to be able to do something, let's say, with a database. All right. If it uses eval in there, you could put something in there that, as an example, could remove records from a database, could remove tables from a database, or even, if you don't know what a database is, think about this, and you wouldn't have this, but let's say, for example, when you log into your bank, all right, that it would have something with eval. A bank would never have that, but let's just pretend for a second that it did. All right. Then you'll have something in there where you could transfer money from one account to another, or maybe from an account that wasn't yours, etc. So you can potentially do bad things. All right. So they talk about it. The funny thing is, when you look at it, notice here, it's 26 years old and it's fully supported in all browsers. And what that really means is, even though it's not recommended, a lot of people for a lot of reasons use it. All right. Now, I just told you about the problems with it, but again, those problems wouldn't really appear in what we're doing, building a simple calculator. Now, I found there were a couple of other articles in here. I'm not going to look at any of them. All right. But again, there's a lot of things out there. Eval is evil. And they explain what it is in here. They even say there's a very good post on it in the Microsoft Developer Network. But then they say, why don't you use it? All right. And again, notice number 2 right there. Just like I mentioned to you, it is a potential security risk. All right. Performance, I don't know if that's really true or not. Basically, when you've got to convert something over from a string to a non-string value, it will take a little longer. All right. It can make it harder to debug. And again, are there any other alternatives? Well, not use it. That's the big thing. It's just don't use it. And somebody wrote this. Now, I think I've mentioned this to you before, and gosh knows, I hope I have, that I've talked to you about Stack Overflow before. It basically is a website for developers. All right. Some people call it Facebook for developers. It's really not. So you can literally go in there and sign up for an account. All right. So let's say you're having problems with your program. All right. Then what they'll ask you to do is like post some code and they'll help you with it. Now, the problem with that is these are professional developers. I posted something on here once. All right. I don't even think it's on here anymore. It was years ago. And I had the equivalent of somebody calling me an idiot. All right. It's like, well, you should know how to do this. And to be honest with you, I probably should have. All right. But it is something that's out there. And you'll notice this was asked 15 years ago, but it was modified just a year ago. And people have asked about it. And again, okay, it says there are probably many small dangers, just like everything else. But the two risks are both performance and code injection, which is the security risk. All right. So should you ever use this? The point is you can use it. All right. I'm not saying you ever should use it, but you can use it. And then they talk about this, and there's running comments, again, notice it isn't evil. All right. So depending on what you're trying to do, it can be a good thing to use. All right. But if you're doing something that is fairly complex, it is probably not a good thing to use. So you'll have this, it works. But as I mentioned, so if I come in here and I type in 89 divided by times minus plus equal, it doesn't know how to handle that. So it's not doing anything. All right. I can remove these and come back and get it to work. So in many ways, it is a fully functioning calculator. It's not a fantastic calculator by any means. And when I look at it now, I should have moved that over a little bit, etc. So there's ways that this could have been fixed, so to speak. Also, I used a flex end on here, if you remember. Maybe that should have been pushed out a little further because it can make it kind of hard to read. But what you have there is actually a fairly fully functioning calculator. All right. So that's the first one. Let me show you the next one, and then we'll go back and start building that one. I'll take a break at about 9 o'clock then. But this is the way the next one is going to look. Hopefully we'll do it right and have no problems with it. This is a simple to-do list. All right. And I think we can make this bigger. So we've got a to-do list. Okay. So I come in here and, wash the car. And I click add. All right. You can see I've now got a to-do. If that to-do is completed, if it's completed, but I want it to remain here, I can click on it and it shows completed here. It's highlighted. And if I want to get rid of it, I can click right here. Now, is that great a thing? No, it's not a great program or anything like that, but I'm going to put this in again. So wash the car, buy groceries, and let's just have one more. All right. Take a shower. All right. So there's three of them right here. They're all there. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to take this one here and this one here, and I'm going to set them up like that. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of here. So I'm going to literally quit and I'm going to bring it up again. And you'll notice they're still in here. So what this particular application does is it uses local storage. And we've talked a little bit about local storage before, but what local storage does, all right, it's kind of like a data repository on your machine. So even after you shut the machine down, it still remembers what you've done. You can get rid of what's in here, and I'll show you how to do that in just a bit. It's not hard, but if you want something to persist, okay, so you're making a little application, you want people to be able to input stuff, maybe get out and then come back and input more stuff later or whatever. This is one way that it can be done. All right. And again, by no means is this a perfect program, such as, well, I should have put some more space here because notice I cut off the end of the circle there. So I should have had a little bit more margin or padding there and there. All right. The other thing too is this is a very extreme program. What I mean is, all right, take a shower. Let's say I've done it. Boom, it's gone. All right. And what I mean by that is what we could have done is I could have put up, for an example, a JavaScript confirm. All right. Maybe I'll try to do that during the break. And where we ask the user, are you sure you want to delete this? And if they said yes, it's gone. But if they click cancel, it would still remain there. All right, because like I said, right now it's a little extreme. You notice we got a different thing. So when we hover over it, we get a different color. It's not a big thing, but just so you can see whatever's active. All right, I brought this in here, etc. So like I said, not that this is a real difficult program, but one of the things that we're going to do. So when we come back and we reconvene, not next week, but the week after Thanksgiving, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about what React is. Then we're going to create the world's simplest React program where you have to do absolutely nothing to it and you get an actual program. Then we're going to make a couple changes to that program. All right. Then we're going to come back and we're going to write our first React program, okay, where we're going to use what's called an API. You're going to learn more about that tomorrow. All right. And then finally, after we get done with all that, we're going to go back. And the first thing we'll do is we'll rewrite the calculator application. And we'll rewrite that in React. Then we'll take this application right here, this to-do list, and we'll rewrite that in React. Finally, we'll go and we'll grab another application, like I said, that we're going to create tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to create an application where you're going to be able to put in the name of a city and you're going to get some information about the current weather conditions in that city as of right now. All right. And we'll do that one in React. All right. Once we get to that point where we've created 2 or 3 programs in React, and I'm not going to say you're going to be totally comfortable, but you will have at least seen it. All right. You'll make copies of these so that you have them if you need them. But those of you who next semester taking the AWD1000 database driven web development 1 class, all right, that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to actually be building an entire system. And once you build the system, you'll put a front end on it. And the front end that you'll put on it is React. And you might say, well, geez, we've done front ends before and they've always been in HTML. Guess what? You write a lot of HTML in React. All right. But part of the idea behind this program, the AWD program, is to try to make you viable for employment. And right now, React is pretty hot out there. It really and truly is. All right. So let's go do the same type of thing that we did before, and hopefully I'll have a little bit better luck. If for some reason I don't, again, you'll get this copy. All right. So by the time we finish, tomorrow, I will take this simple calculator that you just saw, this to-do list, which we're about to do, that complete calculator that I mentioned to you previously, all right, and this weather app that we'll create tomorrow. And I will put all of them out there sometime tomorrow out as a GitHub repository. Probably it'll be called just like JS apps or something like that. All right. So let's go into this and we'll go into the to-do. And again, what you'll notice in here is there's no JavaScript. This one will have a JavaScript file. All right. We have images in here. This is the check thing. I don't need this. All right, because I use my own image in here. And this is the unchecked. So in other words, with this one, you've already seen these. I want to just show it to you one more time. And that is when I bring up the to-do and I run this, all right, and I add, or I just bring these up. So you can see the orange circle with a check mark, and you can see the circle that is not filled in. And that is unchecked and checked. And the image is that image that I showed you. It's the one I have on the top. All right. All right. Once again, like we did before, what I'll do to begin with is I will show you the CSS. All right. I'm bringing it up here in a different editor just so you can see it. You can see there's more than what we had before. And I played around with it. There's some things that are in here that we probably don't need. There might be some things in here that might be repeated, etc. Like I said, I was playing around with this last night. All right. So again, this is the equivalent of a reset. So this is saying for the entire document, no margin, no padding, use that font, use the border box that we talked about earlier and give us that background. Once again, we're going to have everything is going to be in a container. All right. So everything is going to be in a container, and you can see that just like we did before, that container is going to have a few different things, for lack of better words, set on it. All right. All right. We're going to have a row in here. And to be honest with you, I didn't do much with this. Okay. But you'll notice that's our display flex, centered, some space between in here, a background that's going to, all right, and some bottom margin. Here's going to be the actual to do in here. So this is going to be the class of to do, and we'll set a div for that. Again, some more stuff in here, as you can see, with width, margin, etc. All right. At the top here, we have an H2 that just says something like to-do list app or whatever. All right. And I played around with that. You can see I did a bunch of stuff here. Some of it I left in, some of it I removed. This will be the logo. This will be the to-do that we actually input. We will have an add button in here. All right. So that's the add button. We will have the to-dos are put in as an unordered list. So we do things like list style none, etc. Put some padding in there, etc. Some of the other stuff. Right. Now, before that, this is where we put in that circle. So when you first create the to-do, okay, notice it's the ULLI before. So we are putting it in before the actual list item. So I have to position it, and I have to set the position here to relative, but the position here to absolute. Why? Because we wanted to place it so that circle went basically right before the text that it's associated with. All right. This is going to be, if you click that, if you click on that LI, this is just basically going to put a line through it, signifying that it's done. And what you'll see in just a few minutes is that line that's in there will toggle. What that means is if I click, okay, it'll have the line through it like it's done. If I click again, that line through it'll go away. I think I've already shown you that, but again, all right. The span that's in here, this was being used. At first, I was going to have just another button in here that said delete. All right. But I decided not to. And this is the hover. Okay. That's why you get that kind of grayish color when we hover over this. And that's why you see this, how it changes. All right. We could, it might have been better to make it red. All right. So there's a lot of ways that we could do that. I could just come in here if I wanted to and do that. Make the background red. It isn't picking it up, but we'll get it to pick it up. All right. All right. It is 9 o'clock. Let's take 15 minutes and then we're going to come back and write this. The other thing I'm going to do during the break is I'm going to pull up the requirements for your end project. We'll talk a little bit about those as well. All right. See you at 9:15. We're on a break right now for 5 more minutes, just so you know. All right, it's 9:15, so I'm going to continue on. Before the break, we went over and I showed you the images that are being used in this, and I showed you the CSS. So I'm not going to go through either one of those. I am going to come into my JavaScript and just create a new file that's called script, just script.js. All right, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to create also a new file, which is going to be my index.html. All right, so I've got all that. It's giving me an error right now because there's nothing in here, but we're going to fix that right now by starting it the way we usually do with an exclamation point and tab. Now, the good news is that there's only about 25 lines in here. We've got half of them in here already. So I'm going to come in here and just change the title to JavaScript to-do list app. Okay. I'm going to add a link here to our CSS file. And then finally, and again, I could put it up here and use async or defer, or I can put it down here, which is what I'm going to do, which is going to be script source equals js/script.js, and then in my script tag. All right, so that's 13 lines right there, and I've got 23 in what I've written. So like I said, there's not much more to put in here. All right, everything that we're going to put in now is going to be within the body. And I'm going to start by doing, again, a div where class is equal to container. There's nothing special about the word container other than it's also used in Bootstrap. And that's why a lot of people up here call this, you know, their whatever their holder is, they call it container. Another popular name is wrapper. All right. Okay, then I'm going to put in here another div with a class that's equal to to-do. All right. And in here, I'm going to have an H2, which just says to-do list app. All right. And then we've got our image. Heck, let me close this. And that one is called to-do pick. And I believe that's it. So let's just take a minute here. In fact, let's do this first. Let's do a save all. And then let's run it. It's, of course, it's totally not functional. But you can see it. I'm going to blow up the size here. Okay. So there's my H2. There's my image. There's my text, my input text. And there's my button. Right now, it's not doing anything. I can enter stuff in here. That's okay. But nothing happens because there's no JavaScript put in yet. But the good news is that appears to be okay. So what do we have in here? Because you can see everything right here within our body tags. All right. So again, we put it into a div with a class of container, which was styled previously. All right. Inside of there, we put in our to-do, which again is in a class that was styled, and you saw that before. Then we've got the H2. Under that, we've got the image. Then we've got in a row, all right, I put both the text box, it's going to hold the to-do you want to put in, and the button. And again, they were both styled, all right? This is kind of where the magic is right here. And what I mean by that is this is where each time we add a new to-do, that's where it's going to go. All right, we're going to basically be list items, unordered list. And we're going to totally be adding those dynamically as the program runs, which means not only can we add them dynamically, we can change their status to completed dynamically, and we can remove them dynamically as well. All right. And then finally, we've got the tag for our JavaScript file. So that's everything in there. So the only thing that's left to do is to put in our actual JavaScript. So let me save that just so I'm sure it's been saved. There we go. All right, so now let's start putting this in. Now, there's a lot of ways that we can do this. I didn't come in and use a lot of them. I wrote this one more old school. So you can kind of see where we used to be and where we've come to. If you don't understand, just give me a second here. All right, now if you remember in here, all right, we have a couple things. We've got an ID here called to-do input, and that's where we're going to type in our to-do. We've got an unordered list that's called list holder, and that's where we're going to show each one of our list items. So I started with const to-do input equal, and I just used the document .get element by ID. Again, could I have come in here and used the shortcut that we've talked about before? You know, where you use a $sign, or could I have done a query selector? Sure. There's a lot of ways that this could be done. All right. By no means am I claiming that the way I did it was the best way. It's a way of doing it. So again, by now, whether I did it the old way or the new way, what I did up there should make sense to everybody who's watching this video, live or on tape. And that is, I'm setting a local JavaScript variable equal to, all right, equal to in here, the text box or the text where I'm putting in the to-dos, and I'm setting another JavaScript variable equal to the unordered list where on my web page where all my to-dos are going to show. All right. Now there's really two routines that we have to put in here. There's more than that, but there's two that that really have a lot of code in them. And when I say a lot, maybe 10 lines each. This isn't again, not a real big program. But if you remember, all right, when we click the add button, we're supposed to call add task. All right. So let's do that. Now, I'm going to write this more old school. So I'm going to put in function add task. We could have also done this by saying const. So we could, instead of writing it like this, we could have said const add task equal paren, like that. We could have done that just as well. Why did I do it the old-fashioned way? Because if you're going to be a professional programmer, all right, you're going to see both of these. Some of the newer code will probably use arrow functions, but older code that's out there that you may end up having to maintain is going to use the older way of doing it, which is what we show in here. All right, the first thing is, what if the person puts nothing, you know, there's no input into the box. So I'm going to say here, check for no to-do input. All right, so if to-do input dot value triple equals nothing. And, you know, we could do this other ways. I could come in here. I could have a div or something that I put at the bottom of the page. We've done that kind of thing before. I'm just going to put a simple alert in here. So alert, you must enter a to-do. Please try again. All right. Now that should be simple enough for everybody to understand. So with that in there, if I do a save all and I run this, and I leave this empty, and I hit add, there it is. You must enter a to-do. Please try again. All right. And it'll keep doing it until there is something in there. Now, If I hit the space bar a bunch of times, notice it's not catching it anymore. All right, I've had some problems. All right, some problems using the .trim function, but this should work. So I should be able to. It doesn't always work though, and I'm not sure exactly why, but let's see if it does work here. So again, with nothing in there, I get that. Now I'm going to hit enter or hit the space bar a few times. And it did seem like it worked. It threw out all of the leading spaces that were in there. All right, and that's a cleaner way of doing it. That's really the way that it should be written. All right, so you all can tell that by now that if I get down to here and I'm going to put an else in here, that I put something in there. There was input. All right. Now we're not coming in here and we're not checking for the validity of the input. This is a to-do list. But if I come in there and put in 27, as far as the program is concerned, that's a viable to-do. All right, even though the number 27, as an example, might not mean anything. So what I want to do in here is I basically want to build an LI. And really more than even that, what I want to do, let me come back to here. All right. So when I come in here and I do come in here and just say again, I don't know, buy groceries. And I click add. All right. Right now, it's not doing anything, but I want in here, I want there to be a circle that's not filled in and have it say buy groceries right here. If I click on buy groceries, that circle will change from just a gray circle that's unchecked to an orange circle with a white check mark in it. And if I click the plus or the X over here, which we'll have in a moment, when I click that X, it'll be removed. So that's what I want to have happen in here. All right. So to start with, like I said, I'm going to come in and I'm going to build, for lack of better words. All right. I'm going to build that LI. All right. Now, one of the reasons that I chose this example this is true DOM scripting in here. We're doing a create element right there. We're creating our own LI element. All right. Now, there's nothing inside of it. So we want to say li dot inner HTML. And what do we want to put in there? We want to put in there, all right, that, because that's what we put in to that text box right there. So that's going to be text for the LI. All right, so I created an element and I put that in. That's fine. Now what do I want to do? In fact, let's put some comments in here. So create an empty LI or list item element. All right. Fill in the LI text. All right. Fine and dandy. What do we want to do next? Well, now we have to come in and add the LI to the unordered list, to the UL. And if you remember, what we did was we called that unordered list back here, we called it list holder. All right. So right here, we want to say list holder dot append child LI. And that's doing exactly what I put in the comment there. All right. So right now, I'm not going to run it, but right now it would have the beginning of the stuff in there that we needed. All right. But what we don't have in there is we don't have that X in there either. All right. that's going to allow us to remove something. So create the X used for to-do deletion. All right. And I put that in as a span because I want that to remain on the same line that I'm on. So I said, let's span equal document dot create element. Oops, that should be an equal sign, sorry. Document dot create element. And what am I creating in here? A span. All right. And then span dot inner HTML is equal to that X that we want to put in there. All right. This is the Unicode representation of that X, 00D7. All right. And then finally, li dot append child span. Now, of course, we're not done yet, but let's see if what we've done so far worked. All right, there it is. So it's unchecked right now. We haven't put this in yet. So when we click on it, it's not doing anything. All right. We haven't put that in. Well, now the red did work that I put in before, and that's not functional either. So we're going to make it function right now. The thing that would be kind of nice, it's not a big thing, but if I want to put in another to do, now I've got to come back and remove this stuff and start adding. So it would be nice that as soon as we clicked on here, if this disappeared. That, of course, isn't hard to do at all. So let's put that in next. All right. And we want that to disappear regardless. So I don't want to put that into an else. I'm going to come down here after the else. Oops. And I'm just going to say right here, to do input dot value equals nothing. All right. Now that should remove that. Let's double check. Some garbage there. Add, and it's gone. All right. That's good. You'll notice too that as of right now, this isn't being saved. So if I refresh, I lost whatever's in there. That's okay. We didn't put that in yet. We will in just a moment. All right. So let's come back. And since I have been putting in comments, and I'll put in here, clear out to do text box. Okay. All right. There's going to be one more thing that we're going to want to do in here, but I'll wait on that in just a minute. Now, if you, all right, when stuff is going to happen in here, right now we've got it set up so that we can come in and we can put in a to-do. All right. We cannot yet do anything to make it go from basically unchecked, where it's just that circle, to checked, where it's got the check mark and the orange circle. All right. We also can't remove anything. All right. But what I want you to understand is that both of those operations, those being making something checked or unchecked and removing, that is all going to involve us doing something with the unordered list, excuse me, itself. The reason I'm telling you that is we're now going to add an event listener to the unordered list. Now, you may or may not remember this, but things that we talked about a lot earlier in this session or section, the JavaScript part of the class, is you can add event listeners to any control. We, by and large, have just been adding them to buttons, and really, that's probably what gets the most event listeners added to them. But there are other things that we can do as well. So I'm going to come in here and say list holder, which is the name of that unordered list. That's what we did up here, list holder. All right. So list holder, dot add event listener. Okay. And what we want to do it's when we click. So you've seen that before. All right. And again, what I did was I wrote it, like I said, more the heck happened there. Okay, try that again. Kind of wrote it the old school type of way. All right. Where I came in here now and said, okay, I'm about to write a function. Okay. Now that function, what I want to be able to do is I need what's called that event. What is triggering this? That's what E is. I could have called it E. I could have called it EVT. I could have called it event. Those are the names that are almost used 100% of the time, one of those three. I could have called it XYZ, but I wanted to make this somewhat self-documenting in here. All right. So I have to check for two different things. I have to check to see if it's the LI I have checked in or clicked on, or I have to see if it's that span, that X that I clicked on. And I want to do different things. All right. I want to do different things depending on which one of those it is. So I'm going to say here, if, in fact, let's see, if target is LI, toggle the check status. If you don't know what that means, that's what I'm going to write right now. So if e.target.tag name, so if the tag I'm working with is LI, all right, then e.target.classList.toggle checked. And again, in English, what that means is if I clicked on one of the LIs in my unordered list, if previously when I clicked on it, it had just the orange, or it had just the circle, the gray circle with nothing inside. Now change it so it changes to the orange circle that's checked. If it had the orange circle that's checked, change it to the regular circle without the check mark in it. And that's all we're doing here. All right. Then I'm going to put in another. Okay. If target is span, remove the to-do item. All right. So else, and yeah, I can do it like that. That's fine. Else, in fact, we'll just write it as an else if here. Else e.target dot tag name equal span e dot target dot parent element dot, oops, put your hands on the right keys, e dot target dot parent element dot remove. All right. Now let's see if right now it works. There's still a little bit that we have to do here. So again, clean the house. Add. Okay, it added it. That's good. Now, if I click here, that should become a check mark that's orange in the background with white text, and it does. If I click it again, it should turn it off. That's the toggle part. All right, if I click here, it should remove it. All right. Now we could have come in here and it would have been probably cleaner to come in rather than just remove it. It probably would have been better to come in there and ask the user, are you sure you want to remove this? I'm going to leave that off. You could put that in. In fact, one of the things we learned earlier in the semester and when we talked about JavaScript was that there's a confirm. So we could put a confirm statement in there that says, are you sure you want to remove that? All right. So what's left to do? Well, let me go back to this and run it one more time. All right, we're going to put just 3 things in here. So wash the car, clean the house, pick up kids. All right, so we now have 3 things in our to-do list. We will take the first and third, and we will both have them both here, but I'm going to leave that just like it is. Now I'm going to refresh my screen, and you'll notice they're gone because we have not invoked local storage. Local storage, again, is a way for us to be able to save stuff, all right, between sessions. So if I wanted to create something and I wanted to set it up so that when I got done with whatever it was I was working with, and I wanted to save that data, it would still be in there. So if I came back at a later time, it would be there. When you work with local storage, there's basically 2 things that you work with within local storage. And that is set item, if you want to put something in local storage, and get item when you want to get something out of local storage. All right, so let's put that in. It's very little bit of code, but just so you see this. All right. Okay. So I think between the comments and everything else, hopefully I did enough that people understand what's in here. So I'm going to put here, write current contents, right? How about write current to-do list contents to local storage. So I'm going to create a function and I'm going to call it save data, call it whatever we want. And again, I wrote it more old school, but this could have just as easily been written as an arrow function, just 1 line of code. So it's local storage. Notice that IntelliSense is even picking it up, dot set item. And what do you want to call this? We can call it whatever we want. I'm just going to call it data, but you can call it whatever you want. All right. And what are we writing? So that's what it's going to be called. But we're writing list holder dot inner HTML. All right. So in other words, that should be grabbing, just like the comment says, it should be grabbing the to-do list contents and it should be writing them. All right. It should be writing them to local storage. All right. Now, a couple things is, well, this is a new function. Where do we want to call this? All right. Where do we want to call save data? There's really 2 places, and it's in here or it's in here. Right? So I could do this, and I think this either one of these ways will work, but I could do a save data here, and I could do a save data here, and I'll leave them like that. But I believe that if I write it, whoops, if I write it down here outside of the else, I'd only have to write it once. So it would either go and do all of this, and then it would do the save data if I had it down here, or it would do this and the save data. I'll just leave it the way it is. All right. Some people would say that what I've done right there is I've broken one of the tenets for programming, and that is dry. Do not repeat yourself. And I've kind of done that right there. All right. Now that's all fine. But if I run it right now, it's not going to show anything because we've written it to local storage, but we also have to find a way to get it back from local storage. All right. So that'll write it, but we need to write another routine in here, which will retrieve the current to-do list contents from local storage. All right. And again, very short function, just like that one. So function, we'll just call it show to-dos. You call it whatever you'd like to call it, or show to-do list. How's that? All right. And it's going to look somewhat similar to this, but it's going to be list holder, inner HTML equal, oops, try that again. All right, equal local storage dot get item, and that item is data, the way we saved it. All right, now I'm going to run it. Guess what? It ain't going to work. The program itself will work. So wash car, and I can save it. Boom, I can toggle it. But when I refresh, it's gone. Why is it gone? Hopefully, you've gotten to the point in your career here where you can realize that the reason that it's not working is there's nothing calling this. We've got the function there, but there's nothing calling show to-do list. So at the very bottom of my program, I'm going to call show to-do list, and I'm going to force it to be called. All right. So let's see if now that works. All right. You can see it's there from last time. Let's try doing this. So let's come in here again. We'll say clean house. We'll add that. It's not in here anymore. Probably should have put the focus in there too, but I didn't. All right. And wash the dog. Add that. All right. So we've got those. Got them both marked like that. And if I refresh, it is refreshing and it's still in there. Let me make sure by closing this. All right. And running it again. And they're both in there. So what you've been able to hopefully see in this example, all right, was a few things. First of all, one of the things that we did in here is you do a lot of dynamic DOM scripting. You've already, but again, when we went in here, what did we do? All right. We created an empty li element. We populated that li element, and we appended that li element to an existing, at the beginning, empty unordered list. All right. We also created our own span, and we appended that to the same area. We made it a span because if I'd have made it a div, it would have put that on another line and it would have looked real funky. All right. So let's see. I don't think we're missing anything. I think we got just about everything in here. So like I said, we could come in here. I'd probably screw it up, but in here where we are doing the remove, all right, we could come in here with a JavaScript confirm statement. I have to go back and check out the syntax for that. All right, maybe I'll do that after class. All right, so what's left for today? Well, what I want to run over with you, first of all, I want to mention to you, I think I've told you this before, but every Thursday morning, me, Doug Gegelman, and Evan Gudmested, and Doug and Evan are the two AWD instructors who teach in the classroom at in the St. Louis campus. We have a meeting from usually about 7:40 till right before 8 o'clock. And that's why sometimes I'm really hurrying because I've got to run from one building to another building before your class starts. All right. But one of the things that we're supposed to be talking about tomorrow is portfolio for students. So I brought this up, but it may change. All right. I will send it to you tomorrow if it changes. All right. So notice that right now, and I think this is going to change probably from 150 points to 200. But again, I want to run this by them tomorrow. All right. This is, as said, the electronic portfolio that you are supposed to create. So I'm not going to read that. You can see it. You can do this in different ways. In other words, you can write it It should be responsive, but you can write it using just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and add some media queries in your CSS, or you can use Bootstrap, all right? Or as I'll show you in just a couple minutes, there's another package that you can use that's free, that's drag and drop, that's called Mobirise. You can use any of those. The more professional looking your portfolio is, probably at least in the end, the easier it will be for you to get hired. Now, that said, if this is your first class that you've ever taken, then your portfolio is not going to look as nice. It's not going to look as nice as it should 3 semesters from now. All right. So it says here, you must publish your portfolio to GitHub Pages. That's fine. I'll show you how to do that tomorrow. Plus, tomorrow, if you remember, one of the things that we did earlier this semester, one of the things we did earlier this semester is we also talked about the use of Netlify. And with Netlify, you can publish this. See, GitHub Pages is basically a special part of your GitHub repo, and that's fine to put stuff out there. All right, you put something out there, basically it becomes public and anybody can see it. But if you put it in Netlify, all right, you can have your own URL, which will probably look a little bit nicer. All right, but either way, so this will change to you must publish your portfolio to GitHub Pages and or Netlify. And I'm going to put an asterisk there. Why? Because there's other packages that you can use other than Netlify. So if you had the wherewithal to check one of those out yourselves and wanted to do that, you could. All right. As long as it says, if it's GitHub Pages, you'll have to send me an invite. All right. In fact, I'm going to grab this and or Netlify, and I'm going to put it after that, like that. But one or the other, that's worth, it'll be worth probably about 10 or so percent of the assignment. All right. Second, your website should minimally contain, you can write this again as a single page with a bunch of sections in it, or as multiple pages. I've had people do both. So if you, let's suppose that you're going to do it as multiple pages. The first page should be a home or a landing page. What do you put in there? Whatever you think belongs in there. All right. Then the second page would be an About You page. All right. On one of those 2 pages, you must put in a picture of yourself. And it should be a professional looking picture. And I don't mean that you had it done by a photographer, but I mean, you can do it from your own phone. That's totally fine. Now, I had a guy a couple semesters ago, he graduated, Nick, and he, for whatever reason, really liked this picture of himself. And he was in a wedding in the picture, which is fine. He had a tux on, he looked real, but he had about 4 other people in there in the picture with him. That's not the idea. It should be a picture of just you. All right. Then again, supposing that you're putting this on multiple pages, you have a page, and either if you want on the About You page, you can literally have 1 or 2 hyperlinks. You can say resume in PDF format, click here to see my resume in Word format. All right, that's fine. Either one of those would be fine. All right, if you really wanted to, you could build your resume and you could build it in HTML. I don't know exactly what that would buy you, but you could do that if you wanted to as well. But setting it up like this, either on one page or on multiple pages, and having a home or landing page, an About You page or section, a resume page or section, a portfolio page or section, and a contact page or section, that's 40 points. So that's going to be worth somewhere between, I don't know, 20 or 25%, whatever of it. Now, says your portfolio will be evaluated following criteria. I already mentioned this. You either are going to build it with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You can include Bootstrap in there if you want, or you can use Mobirise. Now, I've shown you this earlier, but I'm trying to be complete here. And that is, I'm going to go out to Mobirise, MOBIRISE.com. This is free software. My guess is most of you have a Windows machine. If you do have a Mac, you can download it for the Mac. You don't even have to use this. But if you're just totally confused as to where to start, how to start, etc., this is one thing that you can do. All right. So I'm not going to download it. I already have it on my machine. So if I come in here and I type in Mobirise, now mine might look different than yours. Mine's a few years old. All right. I just like the version that I'm using. All right. But this is an example of something that I made previously. All right. Literally, I think I made this for you guys, but I don't remember, to be honest with you. All right. I don't want that, but I don't know how to get that out of there. So, all right. I don't know why. Let's see. Let me get rid of that and try it again. So how do you do this? First of all, is that too big a picture? Could be, but you could make it smaller. All right. That's probably too much writing there. But you'll notice if I go to my works, it's not doing anything. Go to resume, it's not doing anything. But you can come in there and link to the other parts of the project. And it's not hard to do. Okay? And there's a simple contact me, some contact information, etc. All right. Now, the problem with using Mobirise is if you're using the free version, which I'd recommend, because if you want the paid one, it's about 160 bucks, and that's when it's on sale, is you'll get this at the bottom. I don't know if you can remove that or not. You can go in and you can put in your own footer, but usually it's got Mobirise on there someplace. And the idea behind this, so let's say I didn't want this picture mirror, I wanted a different picture. I can click on the picture. All right. And all I have to do then is change and grab something else. All right. So it won't be me, but I'll just grab something looking for a human being. And it looks like that's one. So I click OK. And that's all you got to do. All right. If I decide I want this to be a different color, just highlight it. All right. I can go over to here. And where it says color, I can change it. All right. I may have to highlight the whole, let's see right there, title 2, color. There we go. So if I wanted it to be black, click there, and you'll notice now it's black. There's not a lot of thought to this package. All right. So if I wanted to jump down here to my resume, which is down here, all right, then I could come over to here and I can click here where it says link, and I want to link to my own page. So it'd be somewhere in here. I don't want to open it in a new window, but it's one of these. Showing me little pictures there. And I'm going to guess it's this one. It might not be, but I'm going to insert a link. Now, when I click on resume, well, what should have happened is I should have jumped to a different part of the page. All right, I'll go back over this again. But if you notice, here's some examples. All right. And what I want you to do is to go in there and literally take a screenshot of your program, and that's what's going to go in here. And then this can be linked, and you can link that to your GitHub repository. All right. And so again, last thing, because I'm basically finished. But tomorrow, then what we're going to do is we'll go over this and I'll build one of these from scratch. All right. And after we build it from scratch, show you how you can publish it. All right. And then we'll take it and we'll put it out on Netlify as well, and probably to GitHub pages as well. All right. So the other thing that we're going to do tomorrow, just so you're aware of it. All right. So the other thing that we will do tomorrow is we are going to go over another example. It'll be a bigger example, and we'll be using what's called an API. And an API is an application program interface. I believe the one that we're going to use here is openweather.api.com, I'm thinking. No. All right. So let me check for Open Weather API. All right. It's in here someplace. There it is. Open Weather Map API. Okay. Now, to use this, don't let any of this stuff throw you. What we will use will be 100% free. What we will use, you don't have to give a credit card. You don't have to give diddly. But in order to use this, you will have to subscribe or sign up for an account. I will tell you, and I can tell you this with 100% certainty, I have never received an email from this place, ever. All right. But the reason that you will need to do this and subscribe like this is that you will need to use your own key to be able to go in and actually put in different cities and get different information, all right, about the weather in that city. This is just an example. There are literally thousands, if not millions, of APIs out there, application program interfaces. Many are out there, most are free. One of the things that you do in the AWD1111 class, those of you will either take it next semester or probably in summer, all right, is you build your own APIs that you can link to then, all right? So, like I said, that's what I've got. So we'll go through this tomorrow. All right. And I'm trying to end these classes somewhere around 10 o'clock. The reason for that is, like I said, I want to give you some time. I will tell you, your finals are going to be graded kind of harshly. Did you meet this criteria? We've gone over that final already where you're building that rock, paper, scissors game. All right. So I will talk to you tomorrow. And if there have been any changes to the format of your electronic portfolio, I'll let you know that. All right, I'm going to try to update that document and send out a copy to everybody tomorrow morning. And then we'll do this example. Then we will go back and I will use MobiRise to build from scratch a very, very simplistic portfolio about me. We'll put all that stuff in there. All right, and then I will try to save it both to GitHub pages and save it out to Netlify. All right, so that's what we got to look forward to. And Friday will be lab for the entire period. Lastly, please remember two things. That is, next week, I am technically on vacation, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I will be available and I will get back to you if you've got questions. Just email me. And Thursday and Friday of next week, of course, Rankin is off for the Thanksgiving holiday. All right. So with that, I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you at 8:05 a.m. tomorrow. Thanks.